We have a major Kristaps Porzingis injury update as we head into Game 5 tonight, as he's been an impactful superstar for the Boston success this postseason when healthy. But Shams Charania comes out with a massive bomb this morning, dropping that Porzingis is likely to play as much as he did in Game 4 and tonight. Could this be a lie that Shams Charania is telling, or could Joe Mazzulla be having the last laugh, ultimately letting Porzingis get as much run as he can after seeing him warm up tonight? We'll figure out all of that and more on this episode of Celtics Digest. I'm Bruce Veliz. Now, before we dive in, before we get into all of this news, if you do enjoy the Celtics content, make sure to hit that like button. Without further ado, though, let's dive into the topic at hand. Make sure to grab a snack. And today's episode, like we mentioned in the introduction, is going to be going over, is Kristaps Porzingis going to be available in tonight's contest? Now, I know all the Celtics fans would love to see Kristaps Porzingis be able to go, as we saw him have a dominant performance in Game 1 before he, kind of retweaked and injured himself in Game 2. And like I mentioned, Shams Charania provided a great update detailing this morning, saying the expectation around the Celtics, at least, is he's going to play a similar role that Kristaps Porzingis did in Game 4 in tonight's matchup. Now, you may be asking, Bruce, what is that going to mean? He did not play in Game 4, and that is kind of, the irony when we look at this. Looking at this tweet from the WP Bandit, and I saw a lot of people quote tweeting this. So Kristaps Porzingis is out tonight, LOL, just laughing, having a good laugh. Now, as we all know, like we mentioned, Kristaps Porzingis in Game 4 was expected to play at least a little bit here and there. But as we all know, Celtics came out abysmal, shooting 28% from the first half, 22% from three-point range, and halfway through the third quarter, similarly to the Game 1, how the Mavericks waved the white towel, the Celtics similarly did the same thing in Dallas, allowing the Mavericks to blow us out and pulling all our starters as they weren't giving any heart and weren't giving effort on the offensive side. Ultimately, that leads to not playing Kristaps Porzingis, which I still believe was the smart move for the Boston Celtics. Ultimately, when you go into a game like that, unless you necessarily need Kristaps Porzingis or he can help you in some aspect to bring the game closer, I don't think there's any reason or any way to put him into that game. What, could he possibly played 5 to 10 minutes in that contest? And now, if he re-injures himself, he's out for the season? Crazy. Then we still have to play without him for possibly 3 to 4 more games. If he were to rest in Game 4, and the Celtics are ultimately hold him out to Game 5, which they did today, maybe that could be the possibility that he could play that 5 to 10 minutes in a little bit better capacity. Or possibly even have the extension ability of sitting out these next 2 days and resting up to be a possibly even play 10 to 15 minutes, or possibly even 15 to 20 minutes. Ultimately, I still think it helps the Boston Celtics. And like Joe Mazzulla said ahead of Game 4, the Boston Celtics weren't fully prepared to play Kristaps Porzingis for the majority of the game. For Game 4, he said that Kristaps Porzingis is not quite there, but we're going to make him available, stating that he will be used in very specific instances, which ultimately led to me and kind of rose to me that either if the game was, a 5-point game in the third quarter or something like that, maybe throw him in there. Maybe if they needed some extra rim protection around the basket with Daniel Gafford and Lively being outstanding in Game 4, they needed in the last 4 to 5 minutes, they throw Kristaps out there. And ultimately, I think Kristaps would have been out there just to help out his team if they needed it, or if it was a blowout victory, they would have thrown him in there for the last, 5 to 10 minutes to get some moments with his teams before he won the championship. Ultimately, the decision made by Joe Mazzulla in Game 4, I believe, was the right decision by the Boston Celtics, even if I said prior to the game that I didn't want Kristaps Porzingis to get out there. The fact that the Boston Celtics got embarrassed in that Game 4, ultimately lost, and were sent back to Boston to try to win this series at home after failing to get the sweep, I think it was best for Kristaps Porzingis and best for everybody else that he were able to sit out. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section, what you guys think about the Game 4, disaster class, and if ultimately that was the best decision for Kristaps Porzingis. But now as we get into Game 5 and as we get into tonight's game, I truly think that probably using Kristaps Porzingis is going to be best for the Boston Celtics tonight. We kind of get back into this and kind of look at how this team has been playing. You can obviously see that in Game 1 of this finals, Kristaps Porzingis was a workhorse, was dominant for the Boston Celtics' success. He had 18 points in the first half, 3 blocks as well in the first quarter, with 6 rebounds, 50% from three-point range, and 8 for 13 from the field. He was utilizing his mismatches in the post, scoring over Jaden Hardy, scoring over Josh Green, scoring over Luka Doncic, but also on the defensive side, helping out and being that fantastic rim protector and rim blocker that he was brought into Boston to do. Basically, to take over for that Rob Williams role, but also being that extra guy on the offensive side as well. I'm really, really fond of what I've been able to see from a guy like Kristaps Porzingis. And in Game 2, he had a solid game as well with 12 points. Didn't shoot the greatest from three-point range, but was still solid on, being a fantastic defensive presence with nailing 2 blocks as well before injuring himself. Then going into game 3, that was the game that I thought was basically lost without Kristaps Porzingis. With the Celtics winning it, kind of proved to us that this team can still win and still prove to us through those, series versus Cleveland and versus Indiana that necessarily they don't need Kristaps Porzingis to win this title. Yes, it does help them. It does make it a lot easier for them to be able to overcome this hump, but they can do it all without Kristaps Porzingis with this team, with Al Horford, with guys like Xavier Tillman really stepping up. So ultimately, that leads us to today's question, which is this a smart decision by the Boston Celtics? Possibly, with Shams Charania basically saying, who knows if he could be going? He could possibly getting as much as run as game 4, which basically means nothing, or just basically just waiting for his opportunity. I think this is smart by Joe Mazzulla. It ultimately throws off the Dallas Mavericks, as we saw similarly in game 1, where he came off the bench. I think that was kind of a rude awakening for the Dallas Mavericks. They didn't know how good Porzingis was going to be coming off the injury, as we hadn't seen him in over a month. They didn't know if he was going to be in the starting lineup. They didn't know if he was going to be that first option off the bench. A lot of variables going into that game led to, the Celtics coming out there and dominating with that mismatch. And I think the Celtics want to similarly prioritize that kind of mismatch in game 4 and into game 5 when finishing the series versus the Dallas Mavericks. I think they know that Porzingis is that solution, is that difference maker, is that guy that gets them over that hump and makes them truly the best team in the NBA. And I don't think they want to use him or to utilize him in any effort if it's not going to help out the Celtics' success. The Celtics need him tonight at that rim protection. If they need him tonight, I do see them using him. And I do think that he'll get some run tonight. Regardless if it's 5 or 10 minutes, I do believe that we will get to see Kristaps Porzingis on the court for the Boston Celtics, even if some other changes are made. I know we were talking about in the Discord. If you guys aren't in the Discord, join down below in the link description. But Rob, Mike D, myself, Celtics Roblox, we're all discussing, breaking down how possibly even the use of O'Shea Brissett for Peyton Pritchard some minutes with some defense and some rebounding could be helpful and useful if they don't use Kristaps Porzingis even tonight's contest. And I still think that that could be helpful for this Celtics team. One last thing before we head out talking about this Kristaps Porzingis news. I want to look at a tweet from Cameron Tabatabae, who breaks fantastic job on the Celtics Lab podcast. Follows us over on Twitter on Celtics Digest. So I really do appreciate for him following us on his Celtics Lab channel. But he said that Porzingis might take the court as a human victory tonight, or victory cigar tonight, excuse me. But I wouldn't expect him to play meaningful minutes, and that's how kind of I feel as well. I do think we'll see him, 5 to 10 minutes if they need him for rim protection. Maybe if it's a blowout game, we'll get to see him at the end of the contest. But ultimately, I think he's there as a distraction, as an extra nuance, just in case the Celtics do truly and ultimately do need to utilize him. But if they don't need to utilize him, if they're winning without him, or if they're getting blown out without him, I still think that he'll rest and be used on the bench. But let me know what you guys think down below about Kristaps Porzingis, as we kind of got some cryptic words coming out, because Shams is saying he's going to play similar to Game 4, but ultimately as Celtics fans, we'd love to see him get some more dominant run. Before we head out though, like I mentioned, throughout the entirety of this video, drop down your thoughts down below for the comment of the day. As we get into it every single episode, we always break down the comment of the day. And today's comment of the day is coming from NBA PBA Update 338, talking about Derrick White possibly making the All-Olympic team, replacing Kawhi Leonard. We broke that down in our last video, so if you guys missed that, you guys should definitely check that out. I'll have it linked up at the top. But he said that Jaylen Brown or Derrick White deserves the replacement, regardless if Kawhi Leonard should not play for the U.S. And I kind of forgot about Jaylen Brown when we kind of talked about this. If you guys missed that last video, kind of broke it down, diving in. Derrick White, if you guys do not know, is apparently could replace Kawhi Leonard on the Team USA team if Kawhi is injured. And I think that would be a good replacement. He's a great two-way player, can hit some threes, can play some solid defense. And like Jrue Holiday making it for the USA team, he's brought on there for that defensive ability and that playmaking ability, similar to Derrick White. Now, ultimately, who do I think deserves it, Jaylen Brown or Derrick White? I think that they both deserve it. I think Jaylen Brown might be more of a prolific player than Derrick White, but due to the need that they might need a better defender and a better playmaker, due to the fact going to Derrick White might be the better option. But I mean, Jaylen Brown would seemingly be another wing replacement for Kawhi Leonard. So ultimately, it doesn't matter. I think that the Boston Celtics should have 3 representatives. Jayson Tatum, they should have Jrue Holiday, and regardless if it's Derrick White or Jaylen Brown, whoever replaces a guy in Kawhi Leonard, I think that they definitely deserve it. 64-win season, possibly winning the NBA championship. You want to go into the Olympics with your best roster, and that screams that. You have 3 best players from the best team on the 3 of the best players in the NBA on the best roster, making the U.S. Olympic team. I think that makes total sense. But let me know what you guys think down below. As you guys know, Celtics are taking on the Dallas Mavericks once again tonight. Game 5. We will be live doing another watch along. Hopefully the Celtics can win the championship tonight. If you guys want to come join us, we will be here breaking it all down around 15 minutes before the game, around 8:15. So come join us. We will definitely be having a good time. Once again, thank you guys so much for tuning into this episode here, breaking down this major update revolving around Kristaps Porzingis. I'm Bruce Velez. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out. Have a great rest of your day. And go Boston Celtics. Peace out, everybody.